get started? Right. So before we start, a couple of housekeeping items. So the votes, I know last week I already announced the votes. So we will, I have already posted most of the materials on there, except for the crisis management topic. I'm still looking for the case that will be used for that. Other than that, all the materials should be up there already, so you can go ahead and look at that. I included two cases for the diversity weeks. There are 2 weeks. So the questions are already included in the post. Like I already posted the questions. So you can take a look at the case along with the questions. So that's the housekeeping. I also saw a few people already submitted the reflection journals in past couple of days, so I'll go through those hopefully this weekend. So you can get feedback from those. Right, so that's pretty much the housekeeping items. Okay, so recap. So what did we talk about last time? Followership, but we didn't actually touch on followership itself, right? So we talk about how we get to followership. So how did we get to followership?
First is not the leadership style, but the leadership behavior.
Very good point, right? So don't write about leadership styles ever, okay? It's not about leadership style because it's a whole package. And even if we want to learn from successful cases, we don't need to learn the entire package. We learn the behaviors that works for the setting, right? And we also learn that there are more than one way to lead, even given very similar context, right? So the context is not really about, oh, if I have this follower, I'll do this. If I have that follower, I'll do that, right? So we learn that there is more than one way to do it. And we also learned that the traditional way of looking at context, they're focusing on the wrong things, right? Focusing too much on the leader and not enough on the other people. Okay, so that's what we learned. We also learned that leadership is social, right? The reason why we work to the idea of leadership being about the followers is because we found that it's about social connection between the leader and the other people. Okay, so that's why we want to learn more about followers, because without followers, that person sitting in the leadership position is not a leader. It's just somebody with a title. Okay. So basically, the sub questions we want to ask today is, why do we follow? Okay, and then dig a bit deeper and say, okay, so if we understand why people follow, what can we do about that as leaders so that they follow us more or they follow other people less, right? What can we do? Or they follow us less. Okay. So that's where we are, right? Okay, so why do we follow? Okay. So I want to start with a few thought exercise. Okay. Number one, thought exercises. I want you to think about the moment you wake up in the morning. Okay. Now, if we look at how we go about our mornings, we'll see that it's very similar every day. Okay. So I want you to think about the first 3 things that you do most mornings. Okay. And then I want you to write it down. Okay. And then we'll see what happens. Yeah. Well, I'll give you another 15 seconds to wrap up. Let's see what we have here. Okay, go to the toilet, brush teeth, wash face. Breathing, drinking, go on sleep. That sounds about that sounds very weird. You get up to drink and then you go back to sleep. Yeah, cleaning. Wow, this one have a very goal oriented check to do list. Check phone, take shower, have breakfast, watch phone, brush teeth, wash face. All right. So you start to see a lot of things that are repeating, right? So turning off an alarm clock, drinking, washing, checking the phone or social media or email or to-do list, drink water. A lot of people drink water, go to toilet. Okay, washing up, reading. I think you're reading the phone, right? You're not reading a book this early in the morning. I don't think anyone would be reading a book this early in the morning. All right, okay. So what we see here is there are more than a dozen of you, and you end up with very similar answers, right? Are you following each other? You're not following each other, right? But if I'm observing, if I'm an alien visiting planet Earth, right? I look at this, I think I would say, okay, there is a trend going on here. So human beings, they wake up. These are the first probably 3 to 5 things they do. Check phone, turn off the alarm, drink a cup of water, wash up, and maybe check the to-do list. Okay. Right? So it's pretty much what everybody does. So sometimes we see a lot of people doing the same thing. And we thought, okay, this must be a rational behavior that people are trying to copy each other, right? Maybe not. Okay. We're not thinking, I wonder what my other friends are doing, what my friends are doing when they wake up. Right? We're not doing that. So that's number one. Number two, the reason why you follow this routine, it comes from something, right? So maybe when you were young, right? When you wake up, what did your mom tell you? Go brush teeth, right? Why do people drink water? Maybe they read somewhere on social media that it's healthy to drink water the moment you wake up, right? So in a way, we are following something. We're just not following each other. right? So is this a kind of followership, or is this like I'm making decision for myself, right? So think about this. Third thing, how many of you, when you're making these decisions, like moment you open your eyes, you're making very conscious decision. Okay, the best thing to do now is to turn off the alarm. Did anyone do that, or do you do that without thinking? Did you really like make a conscious decision? Do I turn off the alarm first, or do I brush teeth first? It's very automatic, right? You're doing the same three things automatically without really very consciously. It's a reflex, right? Alarm goes off, you stick your hands out, turn it off. That's probably the first thing. Yeah. So a lot of times we do things, and you see that if you have to make a list of everything that you do today, just today, probably thousands and thousands of decisions you make, majority of them were autopilot, automatic. You don't have to think. Okay. How do you get to the classroom? You don't have to make conscious decision. There is a habit, right? This is week 4 already, so by now you should have a habit. Okay? So a lot of times we don't make conscious decision for everything. Only minority of the decision of the day you make consciously. Here's another thought exercise. Okay. Do you have a unique breakfast every day, every morning? So A is first, one is yes, 2 is no. Okay. Do you have a unique breakfast every morning? A is yes, B is no. All right, everyone is done. Okay. I want to know about the unique people. This is very interesting. There are 4 people with unique breakfast. How did you manage that? Who are these lucky people? So every day you're eating something different. How?
Because I really love freshness, so I don't want to eat the same food every day. So
do you make your own breakfast?
yeah.
Wow. How? But okay. Wow. So you actually like so how do you make the decision in the morning when what do you eat?
That's the morning's breakfast.
Okay.
Yeah, just go to shopping and go to shopping and shop.
Right. So it's a very conscious decision if you have to do it, right? And it takes energy. You have to actually go to a shop to get what you're going to eat the next morning, right? Now, for most of us, probably we try to vary a little bit, but really it's like you get up. At least that's what I do. I get up. I do my morning routine. I get out and then I turn on my coffee machine. I make my coffee. First thing, no variation. Right, first thing, make my coffee, and then I open the fridge. Okay, what's in there? That looks good, and then I pick up. Right, so it's not like I make a conscious decision. I have to eat something different this morning, but I open the fridge. Whatever is in there, I eat. Right, so there will be repeats, of course. Right. So that's what most I would assume what most people are doing with their breakfast. Correct? So that means again, there are a lot of things then we leave it to autopilot because it takes energy to do something unique, right? Now, of course, if you care enough to expand your energy to try to get unique breakfast, you care about your breakfast very much, right? So that may explain that. So for most people, as you can see, not very unique. It's whatever is in it, yeah? Autopilot. Okay. So the two examples here is showing us what is human nature. Okay? To be human is to save energy. We are lazy beings. Okay? It takes a lot of energy to think. Okay? The reason why our brain is bigger, proportionally bigger than a lot of other animals is because we know how to cook. We eat a lot of protein. Okay? So not a lot of other animals can do that. And that allows us to think. But still, if we are making conscious decision for everything, we're going to run out of energy before lunch. Okay? So we have to save energy. Important things, we think. Not so important thing, we just let our body do whatever, right? It's autopilot. Okay. Another thing we want to know right off the bat is that we tend to think that we're very rational. So I'm very rational and very independent thinking, right? I have my independent mind. We'll learn very soon. By the end of today, we'll see that there are a lot of things that we do that are not very rational. Okay? It's not everything is based on rational thinking, decision making. And we tend to think that we are independent minded. Okay? So we will think, oh, I wake up, I didn't think that, I'm thinking about what my friends are doing, first three things. But we end up doing the first three things, very similar things. Why? Because we learn from somewhere else. Parents, maybe online, maybe some experts somewhere. So we end up doing very similar things. Are we following each other? Maybe not, but we are following someone. So it's still not independence, right? Okay, but we tend to think we're independent. Even people who are following think that they are independent, they're rational, they are making decisions for themselves. And we'll learn today that that's usually not the case. Okay? And that is human. Doesn't mean that we are stupid. It means that we are human. And we have limited energy. We need to save energy for important things. Okay? So that's a very smart thing to do. We also will learn that following also is a decision. That's why we need to think from a decision point of view. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we are following always without thinking. Okay. So for very important major decision, say whether to take up a job offer, whether to come to PolyU to study the master, right? It's not like you just rely on your instinct. You did a lot of research, you did a lot of thinking, okay? So for major decisions that we care about, we will expend energy to reason. This is the pro, this is the con, right? The positive and the negative, and then on the balance, if positive more than negative, we do, right? So it's very rational. For major decisions, we do that. Okay. In the 1950s, there's a decision scientist. His name is Herbert Simon. Herbert Simon say that human beings, because of what we just mentioned, right? We cannot have unlimited energy, unlimited time to make decisions. So we have bounded rationality. We have bounded rationality. We're not 100% rational. We are boundedly rational. That means if it's good enough, it's okay. So for a lot of decisions, we actually go for the good enough. Even for you who look for unique breakfast every day, you're not going to find the absolute best for the day, right? You're going to say, okay, this is good enough. I'll go for this, right? Because it's just too much energy and time and resources to think about what is the best for tomorrow morning. It's impossible, right? So we are not computers, and therefore we have founded rationality. Okay. And then a lot of times we make decisions, we let our emotions make our decision. Okay. So you see on the photo here, there is a sign that says, I'm so angry, I make a sign. So angry, I make a sign. Why do people go out to the street to protest? Not most likely not because they think they're gonna create change. A lot of times they're going out to express their emotion. I'm angry. I need to let my voice out. I need to let people know that this is what I think. Right? So emotions drives a lot of decisions. And so all these people going on the street, maybe a lot of them are driven by emotions. Maybe not just their own emotions of other people surrounding them, their family, their friends. They say, oh, let's go, and then they all go, right? Happens a lot. So activate, once you can activate emotions, and that is especially important for leadership. And in a few weeks, we'll talk about charisma. A part of it is about activating people's emotions, right? If you can drive up, like get people very excited, they have all this energy they need to spend, right? They're not going to spend the energy sitting at home. They're gonna do something. And so if you want people to do something, you drive up their energy and then you tell them what to do, right? And that is a very effective way to get people to do what you want them to do, because they have all this energy they need to use. And if they're staying at home, it's very restless, very uncomfortable feeling, right? You have all this energy and you're doing nothing about it. Okay. So human beings have this tendency to restore the equilibrium. If you're like excited already, right? You need to spend that energy so that you come down, you calm down, right? So that is equilibrium. It on average we are very calm, but if we get whipped up, very excited, we need to find a way to use that energy. Okay. So rational thinking, yes, yeah. Sometimes we follow because of that. Sometimes we follow because of emotions, already not very rational. But we can still argue, oh, a lot of energy, we need to spend the energy, blah, blah, blah. There is still a little bit reason behind that. I'm angry, therefore I want to do something. So you can still argue, still a little bit rational. Okay. All right, so let's think about this. So I'm not sure if you have seen this before. Now, not so much in Hong Kong, but from time to time you see that. And in US, in Europe, you see like sometimes there are people say they buy a certain type of car and then they join some kind of club, and then they say, oh, let's organize something and drive our fancy car out there, antique car out there for a Sunday. And then you see a whole group like of 12, 15 of those cars on the street, on the road, right? Why do people do that? I want you to think about that and give us a short answer. Why do people buy the same car and then or similar car and then group together, organize events to do together? Why do people do that? Sometimes you have like Harley Davidson or motorcycle, and then people go ride the motorcycle together. Why? Why do people do that? Oh, you make a flower? Another 20 seconds. Sure, yeah, well, okay, so sometimes, yeah, okay, so it's a, but you can show your wealth on your own, right? So why group together, right? Get more common topics, right? So you have something to talk about. It's a bonding, social bonding, right? You not want to be abandoned by the group. You want to join a group, okay? Social, right? So people talk about social events, sense of identity. Okay, it is a sense of identity. Communicating, sharing, exchange, right? Sense of belonging. They have similar cars or common topics, right? That is true. Social circle because they like it, show their own taste, social status, and so on. Common interests. So a lot of you got it, right? It's about having that sense of belonging because human beings, another human nature, human beings are social and even the most introverted person wants to belong to a social group. No one wants to be alone. Okay. Now, being introverted doesn't mean that you want to be alone all the time. Okay. So we all need social bonding. And so this kind of activities allow people to like sort of join a club and by joining a club, define their own social identity. I am a motorcycle hobby owner. I am whatever car owner, right? I am a Tesla owner, whatever that means, right? So it's a social identity. It's also social bonding. Okay. So I look around and I saw a lot of MacBooks and iPads and iPhones. Okay. So now, of course, it is a lot more popular. A lot of people own Apple products. Okay. When MacBook first came out, and that's what you see in the photo here. So there was a study. There was a study in the US in an airport, in airports. Okay, so these people, strangers, you don't know each other. Okay, and then there is an actor who sit down opening the computer. So it's either a MacBook or it's something else, say a Dell. Okay, and then they ask people, how creative do you think that person is? Right, the person opening the laptop. Now, if you are a MacBook owner, a fellow MacBook owner, you look at that person opening a MacBook, what they found out is you found that that person is more creative than other people, more creative than the person who opened a Dell computer. However, if you're not a MacBook owner, you don't see this kind of difference. Okay, so it's very, very interesting, right? It's like you don't know that person, but immediately you feel this sense of connection just because you have a MacBook and they have a MacBook, and you find that person more positive to you, even though you have no idea what that person is, right? That person could be a serial killer, murderer. You don't know, but you like that person already, right? That's social identity. That's also social sense of belonging. We are one group. And if I see myself positively, that person has to be seen positively too. Yeah. So that's what is going on there. All right. Here's another thought exercise. And I'm sure this happens a lot. So you and your friends, say suppose a whole lot of you, after class you're thinking, oh, we'll go out for some food. Okay, where to eat? Now, at first 2 minutes, nobody had any idea. Okay, and then somebody say, let's go to McDonald's. And then some of you actually don't feel like going to McDonald's, but you don't say anything. You just go along. And then the whole group of you went to McDonald's, when in fact, even the person suggesting McDonald's didn't really feel like McDonald's. The person just, for the sake of moving on, right, make a random suggestion. Person didn't know that other people would agree. And then everyone went to a place that nobody likes. Has this happened to you in your life? Maybe not so drastic, but likely happened, right? So this has happened in a lot of our lives, and this is what we call groupthink. Yeah, you heard of groupthink. So my question is, why did no one say anything? If no one likes McDonald's, why did no one say anything? Why did we just all end up in McDonald's? Give you another 30 seconds to wrap up. don't want to be a buzzkill in a group, yeah. Respect the people who first propose. People don't like to be antisocial in a group, right? Do not want to be a loner, do not want to be different from others, right? Basically, we don't want to be the difficult person who's creating trouble for the whole group. And that's why group things happen, right? Group things happen because of that. We don't want to stand out in a group, don't want to be that troublesome friend whom nobody likes to take out and take to social events in the future. Again, coming back to the point, we want to belong. And if we cause too much weight, too much trouble, we don't belong. We risk not belonging, right? So that's why nobody nobody can reject McDonald's. Not true. Not true. Although the French fries are very, very evil and very attractive. Yeah. Okay, so what am I driving at, right? So all these thought experiments, I'm trying to say that we succumb to social forces a lot. Now, by social forces, I mean people we don't know. We cannot pinpoint. It's just general pressure. Okay? I mean, people we know. So sorry, people we know. So our friends, our family, people with similar interests, right? Common identity. We're looking for that common identity. We're looking for that social bonding because it's very important for us. We want to perceive that we have social connection with each other. Okay. And of course, there's peer pressure, friends. I'll tell you that there's one experiment, not quite experiment. People found that even your body shape, whether you're overweight or fit, can be contagious. Okay, so this came from a study again in the U.S. People found that so in the US, a lot of overweight people. Too many overweight people, not good for the medical system, healthcare system. It gets very expensive because people are gonna get sick, right? And then you have to take care of those people. They're not going to work, so they don't pay tax, right? So a lot of burden for the society. So the government wanted to know how do we get people fit, right? And the study found that it's contagious. Your weight can be contagious. Now, not like virus, right? It's not like you're passing the overweight or underweight virus to your friends. It's not like that. But it's because it is through social force. Think about this. If all your friends are very fit, okay, you go out for meal, okay, they're all eating very healthy. Now you want to belong to that group, right? And therefore it would be not very nice friend if you eat something very different. Right? If all your friends say, "Oh, we're gonna go to the gym, or go play basketball, or go running, go run at the in the marathon," and you're like, "Oh, I don't want to join that," right? Then you don't belong anymore, right? So if you want to belong, you go run together, right? And so fit people, they end up being in a fit group, social group, right? So it's about it's very contagious stuff like that. Okay, so it's about people wanting to belong. Okay, so that's social force, right? People you know, your friends, your family, your co-workers, people you hang out with, right? You want to build that bond so that you belong somewhere. Okay? So that's why we follow. Not because we really love McDonald's or really love to run in a marathon, but because because we want that bond. And we follow for social forces. So that's number three, right? So rational decision making, emotions, social forces. What's next? So I want you to think about this. Does this describe your thinking about yourself? I want to be seen as a distinct individual. Yes or no? Want to be as a distinct individual? Yes or no? Six of you want to be seen as distinct individuals. So the rest of you, I don't need to remember you by your name anymore because you don't want to be distinct individual. You just want to be a nobody random person. That what you mean? So a lot of us, right? A lot of us. So these answers sort of tell us something, right? A lot of us want to be our own person. Okay. But what comes up here, I'm not going to ask you this because I think you are getting this. What shows here is you want to be your own person, have your own mind, do your own thing. But if it makes you stand out so much, so distinct that everybody's looking at you, then you feel uncomfortable. Right? Is that what you're thinking? That's why you choose no. Right? You don't want to be the distinct person because you don't want all eyes to be on you. All right? All right. So that is what we call optimal distinctness. Okay. I'm going to show you this. So we all have taken the elevator. Okay. Elevator, the door open, you walk in. Okay. What's the next one? And there are already a lot of people inside like this. Okay. So you walk into this elevator. What is the next thing that you do? If you minute or so to answer this. So door open, you walk in, you see a whole bunch of people. Then what do you do next? Wow, it takes so long for people to think. It's only taking the elevator. Not something very complicated. Don't overthink it. 10 more seconds. All right. Avoid eye contact, right? Stand in the corner, walk in silently, stood in a corner. What if the corner is taken? You see, it's a very crowded elevator, right? Smile, keep silent, look at your phone. Okay. Turn back, right? Turn your back and face the front. Press the floor and then stand quietly. Just walk in, stand close the choose the floor. Okay. Find a place to stand and not look at others. Okay, turn around. Do not speak, remain silent, stand in the corner. A lot of corner people here. Okay. Okay. Right? So the normal thing, right? You don't want to look at people's eyes. And you don't want other people to look at you. Right? Because it's very uncomfortable. So the natural thing is you walk in, then you turn around, press the button, right? And so your back is facing all these other people. You don't have to make eye contact, right? Okay. So here's one experiment. Oh, so there's a one experiment, called the elevator experiment.
The gentleman in the elevator now.
Right. So what we're going to see here is, of course, black and white. That means a lot of years ago. Okay. Now, so this is way back in New York, like in the US context, right? So these people are very individualistic. Right? So let's see whether it makes a difference, whether people turn around or not, right? Face the front, right? Avoid eye contact or whatever they're talking about. So let's take a look.
Is a candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with the white shirt, the lady with the trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff, will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat tries to maintain his individuality, but little by little, he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall. Now we'll try it once again. It's apparently been on his positions. Moment on top. And now
What we're seeing here is that there are people who will try to maintain their individuality, right? But it is really, really uncomfortable to be too different, to stand alone in a crowd like that. And so even the people who try very hard, they make that turn. They follow, right? So following could be an outcome of being uncomfortable to stand out too much. So that is what optimal distinctiveness is about. Okay. So we all want to be different individuals, right? We all want people to recognize that we are a individual human being and not just a robot. But at the same time, it is very uncomfortable to stand out. And that is what psychologist Marilyn Brewer say call optimal distinctiveness. There's a level of distinctiveness that we are comfortable with, and then beyond which we feel uncomfortable. Okay? All right. So that's optimal distinctiveness. Now, going into an elevator, whether you face the front, face the side, face the rear, there's no wrong answer, right? So if you're facing the odd way, facing differently, doesn't mean that you're wrong. Okay? You're just different. Okay. So there's no right or wrong answer. Now, what if there's right or wrong answer? Will people still follow because they feel uncomfortable to be different? Right? So that is what Solomon Asch tried to try to test. That is what we call conformity. Do people follow each other just even if it's wrong, just because it's very uncomfortable? And so let's take a look.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the three lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the fifth person with the white T-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2,
2,
2,
2,
2, 3,
3, 3, 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2, 2,
2,
2, 2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1.
1. They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me. 1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1.
1,
1,
2,
1, 2,
2, 2,
I know they're wrong, but why
Two.
should I make waves?
2,
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2,
2,
2,
2,
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Asch gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1,
1, 2,
1, 2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced. Sometimes we go along with a group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Asch. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
1,
1, 1.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. Conformity drops by 2/3. Asch's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
So here we see that even if there is a right or wrong answer, we follow to avoid the discomfort, right? But there are different conditions in which this avoidance will reduce, right? So if you have a partner, or if you can keep your answer in private, then you're less likely to follow. So it shows that, it's the level of confidence, right? Now, previously with group pressure, social force, right? Those are people you know. In optimal distinctiveness, what you see here are strangers. Strangers. You don't know these people, right? You don't know everyone in the elevator. And even though you don't know them, you are affected by them and you follow. Okay? So we don't just follow people we know, we trust, but we also follow strangers, right? Because we feel uncomfortable. Okay. So back to the dinner problem. Okay, so we'll switch the dinner problem a little bit. Okay. Now suppose it's not McDonald's, okay, but you have no idea what good restaurants are out there on the street. Okay. So you walk down the street, say 6 of you, here it's a big group, right? 6 of you. So you walk down, you go to the first restaurant, there's no one eat. Okay. And then you go down to the next restaurant. You see the two of them eating. So 2 tables. They look to be satisfied with what they're eating. So they look happy. Okay. So the group of you, so let's say a normal group, what do you think a normal group would choose? The one restaurant with no one eating, or the one restaurant with 2 tables, 2 people eating? Which one? Place with no customers or the place with 2 customers? 2, right? Because now you feel like, okay, there is a sign that tells you, but maybe these 2 people end up in that restaurant by random. They just happen to walk in and try a random one. Okay, so now you have 2 people, and then 6 of you walk in. Okay, 8 people eating. So now another 6 of you walk by. You're choosing also one restaurant with no person, the other restaurant with 8 people eating, and they look like they are happy. So which one do you think people are going to choose? 8 people, right? So we make decision based on other people's decision, right? So this is what we call information cascade. Information cascade means, so what is a cascade? It's, what we see in the photo here. A layer after another layer after another layer, right? So it's not just waterfall, one layer, right? It's one layer, another layer, another layer, okay? Our decision making is also like that. We make decision based on what other people have already made. Decision other people already made. Think about this. Let's say you're looking for a restaurant and you don't know where to find a good one. What do you do? Normally, what do? You want to find a place to eat. You don't know what restaurants are around there. Look at Little Red Book, or in Hong Kong, people do OpenRice, right? Or in mainland, Dianping, right? There are a lot of these web pages. So think about what are those web pages, right? People put reviews there because they already make the decision to eat there. So they make the decision first, and then you base your decision on their decision, right? So that is one layer after another. We are traveling, how do we choose our hotel? We look at reviews, right? That is information cascade. It is not independent. Think about this. It's not independent decision making. somebody already made a decision for you. Okay. Now, marketers are very smart about this. Okay. So if you go online to buy things, right? For example, you go on Amazon, you buy things, and then down there they say people like you also buy this, and that, and then you look, right? You go on and look. That is how social media algorithm keeps you online, right? They keep a sidebar of other things that people like you are watching. Okay. And then you go on and watch those too. All right. So that is following. In fact, there was a very interesting experiment done in, I think it was Columbia University. So top university, smart people, very technically savvy university students. Okay. So the test is, what they asked, the front is that they want to test your music taste. Okay. And so, they ask you questions like, do you like male or female artists? Do you like group? What kind of music do you like? So on, ask you a lot of questions. Okay. And then they give you a list. After you answer all the questions, they give you a list of songs to download. And they say, oh, you can download some of these songs. Okay. Now, for half the group of the people, it's just that. The other half, there's this list of songs, and then over at the corner of the screen, there is a little window. People like you downloaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs. And they found that people will be influenced by that little window, even though that little window provide music that is not what they indicated as the kind of music that they like. They still download. So more interestingly, when they ask, are you being influenced by the little window? Most of them say, no, I make my own decision to download those songs because that's what I like. Right? So we are influenced by others we follow, and yet we deny that we follow. That's how we are. Right? We think we are independent minded, but we are actually following others, and then we don't know it. That's human nature. Okay? So it's human nature to follow. Okay? It's not because we're stupid, but more because it's very exhausting to collect information and to do the pros and cons for every single decision. So we only focus on what matters to us. Okay? Or maybe life happens. We didn't have enough sleep last night, or we haven't had dinner yet. We're tired. We didn't have the energy to actually make the decision. So even if we care, we just cannot do it. That happens also. Yeah. So you think that like you probably remember, like when you're tired, when you're sleepy, you're like, oh, whatever, I am not going to spend too much energy making a decision. Just follow, just do whatever, right? When you're very hungry, you're not very choosy about what you eat, right? So that is human nature. Okay, so it's a human nature to follow. Now, if it's human nature to follow, right? So also on this, I'm not sure if you have heard this, right? So when I was young, right, I would tell my parents. So sometimes I'll do something that my parents do not approve of, right? And then I'll say, well, all my friends are doing that, and my mom used to say, okay, so if your friends are jumping off the building, are you going to follow them and jump off the building? Right? Of course, rationally, you won't. But guess what? It's human nature. If people are jumping, you jump. If a lot of other people you care about, They jump, you jump. Okay? So that's human nature. And that's what this picture is about. Okay, it's human nature to follow. So that raises the question, right? So there's no leadership in here, right? We haven't even touched on the leader. So even if no one is doing anything, people follow. Okay. So what is the role of leadership? Right? Great leaders know how to, knowing that this is human nature, how to remember last time we talked about the process, condition, and meaning. How to make use of the process, conditions, and meaning to get the following even stronger. That's what great leaders. Okay. So yes, it's human nature to follow, but great leaders can understand the human nature and make the following even faster, even stronger. Okay. So that is what we are going to talk about, the moderating of followership. But before we get there, let's take a break, 10 minutes. So now it is 7:41. So 7:50, we come back and talk about moderating followership. Okay, 10 minutes. Okay. Let's continue. Right. So before the break, we talked about how it is human nature to follow. Right. There are a lot of reasons. Sometimes we listen to reasons. Sometimes we follow the emotions. Sometimes we get affected by people we know. Sometimes it's just the sense of being uncomfortable, being too different, right? And then there is also information cascade, which makes us feel like we're making very rational decisions, but we're actually making dependent decisions that depends on other people's decision. Okay, so it's human nature. Now, before the break, I also say great leaders can do more with this. Okay, so that's why we're learning this, right? But before we get there, we need to make clear one point, and that is what we call perception is reality. Okay? Perception. So sometimes we like to think about the objective reality. Okay, but what you see and what she sees could be very different, even though it is the same thing. Okay, so I'm gonna address the orange in the room. I know a lot of people see the orange. Okay, but only one person say something. Why? But first of all, have you seen people wearing this orange around? No. Okay. So if I ask you to wear the orange, get up. So you're lucky I didn't buy more oranges and ask you to wear the same and walk around campus. One reason is because it's evening, not a lot of people are out there. So if it's a daytime class, I'm gonna ask you guys to wear the orange out. So if I ask you to wear the orange, walk out, how are you gonna feel? It's very awkward, right? You're gonna think, people looking at me. Believe me, people don't care. Okay, so they look, so what, right? So we tend to feel like there is a spotlight on us if we are doing something, if we feel that we are doing something, right? So that is a subjective perception. Objectively, maybe a few people see, they don't care. Okay. So the reason why there aren't a lot of people wearing the orange out there because there aren't a lot of people doing that, right? Optimal distinctiveness. If I wear this out to go home, it's gonna be very, very uncomfortable because I am acutely aware that there is an orange on my hair. Okay. Now, but I will tell you another story of mine. So this has to be more than 10 years ago. So I used to change into something more comfortable before going home. Okay. And I used to dress up a little bit more for class. I don't do that anymore. So I would change into something more comfortable before going home. So one time, so 9:30, I got back to the office and then I changed in the dark, could see very clearly. And then I rushed to the train station, MTR. Okay, so full train of people. Now it feels kind of funny, but I wasn't aware of anything. Okay, so but nothing going on, take the train, got back home, got to my building, got into the elevator. Okay. And of course, as normal human being, I walk into the elevator, I turn around, right? Press the button, and the elevator, normally a lot of elevator, right? It's like mirror, right? So elevator door closed. I see myself in the reflection, and I found that I had my shirt, my T-shirt, front side back. So the front is back there, the back is up here. Okay. No wonder it's so uncomfortable and I didn't notice. Okay. But because on the MTR, I didn't know that. So I feel nothing, right? So there's no, like, even though I look very objective reality, I was totally different and odd. But I didn't feel the uncomfortable feeling, right? In the elevator, I was on my own. There was no other people. But I feel that, oh my God, this is weird. And so I felt very uncomfortable in the elevator on my own, right? So this is illustrating that perception, right? Do you perceive the difference? If you perceive it, you feel very uncomfortable. If you don't perceive it, even though in reality you are very different, you don't feel it. You don't feel the uncomfortableness. Yeah? So perception is what counts. It's not the objective reality. In leadership, a lot of times we are talking about the perception. Okay? So your perception is going to be very different from yours. It's very different from yours. Okay? Right. We'll come back to the orange in a moment. And for sure, not going to wear the orange because I can feel it. It's very, very aware. I am very aware of it. Okay. So I want you to think a little bit. Okay. So there are a lot of forces. The emotion, the social forces, the optimal distinctiveness, information cascade. All these are the forces out there that is pushing people to follow. Okay. So when are people more or less likely affected by these forces? So I want you to think a little bit, give us what you think, random answer. require a little bit more thought, right? So I'll give you another minute. Try to look it up. What do you have think of? You have thought of? If you don't have your own opinion, you're more likely to follow, right? So when you have a stronger inner self, you're less likely to follow, right? If you're confident about yourself, you're less likely to follow. Okay. When people are in a large group, right, number, they're so depends, right? If everybody is going the same direction, you are more likely to follow. But if they are going against, right? If they're your partner to go against the force, then you're less likely to follow, right? Right. Right. If the answer isn't important, then of course you follow, right? So that we talk about that. When people think their opinions must be right, turns out our opinions, even our memories, can be affected by our friends. If we remember something very clearly, but all our friends, so if you remember, say, yesterday at 3 o'clock, you drank coffee, but all your friends confirmed that yesterday at 3 o'clock, you did not drink coffee. It was the day before. Research found that it is very likely that you are going to agree with your friends and say, oh, maybe I remember it wrong. Our memory can be tricked by our friends also. So be careful who your friends are. They can trick you. Right. So a lot of people mention strong personality, independent mindset. To a certain extent, yes. So some people are more skeptical. They don't follow so easily. Not everybody can wear an orange into a classroom from office. It takes a lot of courage. Yeah. And I actually passed by a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people stare. And so think about like what I do for like the sacrifice I make for class, right? Let's see. Right. So facing psychological pressure. Right. Okay. Perception. Somebody mentioned perception. Okay. So let's talk about some of these variations, right? So they don't go too far away from the three things that we learned last time: condition, meaning, and process. Okay. So last time we saw this clip, right, about doing without doing, getting people to sing the notes, even though he didn't say you have to sing this, sing that, right? So it's because he mastered the concept of building that process, the condition, understanding the condition, and the meaning. So let's talk about them little by little. How do you do condition, meaning, and process? Okay. So the first thing is if you remember the clip about Ash, Solomon Ash, the conformity video, right? If there is a partner, suddenly you are more likely to, well, actually, let's not talk about the partner first. If you can keep your answers private, right? You're less likely to follow. All right. So think about this, right? There are times you don't want people to tell you what you want to hear. Okay. Can you imagine what kind of situation would you want people not to follow so much? I mean, we all can agree there are a lot of occasions where leaders want people to follow. Are there occasions in which leaders do not want other people to follow? Can you think of any? Can you think of any? So I know, for example, MBA, right? So you talk a lot about entrepreneurship, right? There is a project called Creators Project, right? Yeah. Now, if you are a boss wanting innovation, would you want people to follow what you just mentioned? Or would you want people to have a different idea, right? And that you have a fixed mindset. Exactly. You don't want people to like, so you say something and then everybody follow you, right? You want people to raise their ideas. And if you want people to raise their ideas, you don't want them to follow so much, so closely. Right? So let's think about this, right? If even in the elevator, right? If the door is open, people follow. The door is closed, maybe people don't follow so much. Okay. So that tells you a little bit about the impact of publicity. If your opinion is different and public, it is very uncomfortable. Okay. If your opinion is private, even if it's different, nobody knows except for whoever is reading the comment, right? So think about if you're a leader, you want people to give you suggestions. You ask in the big room, give me suggestions. Or you say, here is the suggestion box. You can put your opinions in there and I will read it's secure. Right? Which one situation are you likely to see better suggestions? Who's the private? Pardon? Anonymous, right? Anonymity. It's anonymous. Nobody knows what you're thinking. You're more comfortable. Right? So making people feel comfortable being different allows people to follow less. Making people feel very uncomfortable being different force people to follow. Right? So if you really want people to follow, make it public. Public commitment. Tell me now, right? In public. Then people are going to say, follow, okay, I have no opinion, no idea. And that is a trick that a lot of leaders do. Right? If they don't want dissent, they ask publicly. Tell me, what do you think? Do you disagree? And nobody's going to disagree in public. I mean, it is very uncomfortable. So publicity is one factor, right? A condition you have built. Now imagine this situation. Okay, we have a restaurant being here. So you're going to a restaurant in a foreign place, you don't have Google Translate, you don't have any translation tools, you look at the menu, you have no idea. And even if you can translate, sometimes you translate menus, you still don't know what that means. Okay? So you don't know what to order, but you are very hungry. And they say this restaurant is good. Okay? So what are you going to do? You want food. What are you going to do? Look at what other people are ordering, right? So next table, somebody is ordering the soup. They look happy. I'll have what they have, right? So that is one way to do it. What is another way to do it? Ask the waiter for suggestion, right? What's good here? Both are following. You reckon that? Both are following. Okay. So when you are unsure about the answer, and a lot of people mentioned that earlier, when you're unsure about the answer, you're more likely to follow. Okay. So it is easy to create that condition to make people feel uncertain. Right? Maybe you ask, are you sure? Is that your final answer? Right? You shake people and immediately they're very uncertain. Okay. And following provide a sense of security. Okay. So if you make, so think about like what Donald Trump is doing now, right? It's like starting fire everywhere. So suddenly there is this sense of uncertainty. Oh, what is going to happen, right? When people don't know what is going to happen, they're not going to do anything because they don't know where to start, right? So they just follow. Okay, whatever. Let's see what happens next, right? So so when you create this sense of uncertainty, people are going to look around and see what other people are doing. Okay, so think about if you are the opposition. You want people to do something, you create an example so that people can copy the example, right? So it works both ways. Uncertainty makes people, sense of uncertainty makes people follow. Okay. Safety in numbers. So a lot of people, I'm not going to ask you this, but a lot of people mentioned that in the short answer earlier, right? If there are a lot of other people going a certain direction, there's safety in numbers. Okay? Because you are one of the large group, you don't stand out. Okay? Maybe they're right. Right? So that is what the Asch conformity experiment is showing us. If everybody is going a certain direction, you may suspect that you're wrong, or maybe you just don't want to make way. Either way, you follow. Okay? But if there is somebody else as a partner, suddenly you're feeling, okay, maybe it's not so big of a group. I feel safe that somebody else is on my side also, right? And I'm more likely to disagree in that sense. Okay? So safety in number. That is actually related to another thing, which is one of the papers assigned for this week, Basili 2003. They talk about minority slowness effects. Minority slowness effects. Okay. So that has a lot to do with majority and minority gap. Okay. So here's how it works. So Basili was when he was doing this experiment, he was in Canada. And so Canada had elections for votes and so on. And usually around elections, there are issues that people talk about. And do you protect the environment? Do you spend money on protection of the environment or spend money elsewhere? Right? Do you do this or do you do that? So they asked a lot of people, so they call people up randomly on the phone and ask them about opinion. Okay. So in one condition, they ask people, so what do you feel about, say, environment? What do you feel about abortion? How do you feel about, I don't know, random topics, right? Immigration, for example. And then they say, oh, by the way, so they measure how quickly people, slowness, right? How quickly people answer. Okay. Now, for one group, they say, so a lot of people, like 60% of the Canadians say they are against immigration. What's your opinion? Okay. Now, if they agree that they are against and they see there is 60% with them, they answer quickly. Okay. Now, if they see that 60% is against and they are for immigration, they are on the 40% side. It's a smaller, right? Smaller group. Then they take a little bit longer to answer. Okay. So that is the minority slowness. If you're in the minority, you express, you're a little bit more hesitant in your expression of your opinion. It takes longer. So this is very neat because they actually measure the nanoseconds, like how much longer you take to answer. Okay. Even more interesting, they found that the smaller the minority, the slower the response. So if I say, oh, 90% of the Canadians are against immigration, and if you are in the 10%, you're going to take even longer time to answer. So that is very cute. They found that. Okay. Now, of course, immigration, abortion, they have value, right? They're letting with value. It means something. So Vasily and his team also asked people about random things. Do you like potato chips? Do you like spaghetti? Right? What is your opinion about potato chips? Say, right? It doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. It's not like, oh, if I like potato chips, I'm going to be a bad person. Right? There is no value in it. And they found the same. If 90% of the people love potato chips and you're the 10% that do not love potato chips, it's going to take longer to tell people that you don't like potato chips. You get what's going on here? And if you're told 99% of the people love potato chips and you're the 1%, it take even longer. So that's very neat, right? Even for something meaningless, they found results. Okay. And they also found that it is not about belief. Okay. It's not about belief. You can be very confident, feel very strongly about your belief. You hate potato chips with a passion. You still take longer to tell people. Because simply it's uncomfortable. Right? So where are you in the majority and minority? How small is your minority or majority? Makes a difference. Okay. So think about, for example, online, right? So now a lot of social media, and there are also a lot of bots, okay, robots. A lot of the comments on social media, not human beings. What's the point of getting robots to put a lot of comments out there? What do you think? What's the point? Yeah, and not really control the comments, but control the perception that a lot of other people are thinking one way, right? Making the majority very big on one side. So make you a little bit more hesitant expressing your idea, expressing your opinion. And make people who feel like they're in the majority more likely to express their opinion. Right? So that's what people are doing. A lot of people are doing that. So that is a trick, right? Building that condition. Now here has something to do with the meaning, okay? The in-group, out-group distinction. Okay. Let's say, I don't know, at one point there was this iPhone that's golden in color. And a lot of people buy it. It's made specifically for the Asian, for the greater China market. Because a lot of people like it. Okay. Now I look around, I don't see a lot of that golden color. So why? Why are you not? You don't like that color? Trend, right? So yeah. So in-group, out-group distinction explain why fashion picks up and why fashion drops off the face of the earth. Okay. So turns out we don't want to be misidentified with people who we feel are dissimilar. Okay. So it's not just the phone, not just your fashion, but even wearing masks. Even wearing masks. Okay. You go to say now in Hong Kong, it feels comfortable to wear a mask on the train, on public transportation. Let's say you're traveling to UK, no one wear masks. You're gonna feel very uncomfortable wearing masks. But even at the height of COVID, right? So 2021, 2022, I remember my friend migrated to UK and her daughter, 11 years old, 12 years old, going to school. And because there is like a lot of jokes around in the playground, right, saying, oh, people who are carrying virus, they wear masks and so on, right? So the kids are a little bit worried that they will be misidentified as that group. So even though they're very scared of being infected, they didn't wear masks. They don't want to be misidentified. Right? So that's when, suddenly people, even though they're very scared, a lot of people are not wearing masks. Okay? So the fashion went out. But it explains a lot of things. Like people follow, people don't follow. So that's another reason, another thing that leaders can play around with to get more people to follow or less people to follow. Okay. Of course, culture also make a difference. Okay. Culturally, and that gets to meaning. Okay. So condition, process, meaning. So let's look at meaning. Okay. So culture prescribe meanings to following also. Okay. So there were two researchers, Kim and Marcus. So this was 1999 in Stanford University. Top psychologist, very smart. Kim, as you could see from the name, was Korean. Marcus, American. Okay. So Kim noticed that if she has an opinion in California, in Stanford, she can express and no one will say anything. But if she goes back to Korea, she speaks her mind, people are going to look at her like she's crazy. Because in Korean culture, you don't just randomly express your opinion. You find the right occasion to um, kind of ease your opinion. And you don't rock the boat. Okay. So Kim was very curious. She wanted to understand what is going on. Okay. So they did this very, very cute experiment. So because the chicken is not going to be very meaningful, so I'm gonna draw you something. So they show people two pictures. I'll try to draw it with the face. Okay. So A is like this. Everything lines up very nicely. B is a bit more interesting. So they have this thing sticking out. So two pictures. Okay. So they show the two pictures to a group of Americans, and then they show it to a group of Koreans in Korea, not the American Koreans, but the Korean Koreans. Okay. So they show the two pictures and ask these people, which one do you think is prettier? Now this is meaningless, right? Squares and triangles. Which one is prettier? What do you think the Americans are going to say? Which one is prettier? What? A or B? B. Okay, so Americans say this one is prettier. Koreans? A. Okay. So your hunch is correct. So they found that Koreans choose A, tend to choose A. Americans tend to choose B. So now they want to understand why. So they don't stop there. They try to understand why. Okay? And they found that Koreans, they have something called the holistic mindset. So it also, and Americans, let me write this down first. Analytical mindset. So it has a lot to do with how we approach different people approach problems. Okay. So think about medicine. Chinese is sort of like Korean, holistic mindset. And you go to traditional Chinese medicine, Chinese doctors, say you have a headache, they check your whole body, right? And then they give you like a medicine that treats the whole body. It's the balance and this and that, right? Heat here and whatever. I have no idea what they're talking about, but that's usually what they tell you, right? You go to a Western, say American trained doctor, okay? With a headache, they'll give you painkiller. It treats just the headache, right? If you go there with a stomach ache, they look at your stomach only and then give you medicine treating just the stomach. Right? You go to a traditional Chinese or traditional Korean doctor, they say, oh, it's the balance, this and that, right? And then they give you something, a soup or whatever. And you have no idea what that soup is for, but just trust them. Okay? So that's the holistic mindset, right? So they look at the entire picture. Okay? So the Korean have that. Okay? Now, so that's the first layer. Like they look at the entire picture. They look at, oh, everything. A, everything lines up. Very nice. Okay. B, almost everything lines up, but there is like this thing that sticks out. Okay. So that brings us to the second thing. Okay. When everything lines up, right? In the Korean culture or the Chinese culture, the same. We call that harmony, right? Harmony. Everything is in harmony. Now, is this positive or negative? Positive thing, right? It's positive to have harmony. Americans, they are analytical. They analytical don't look at the entire thing. Okay? So they look at squares. Everything the same. This is boring. This is what they call conformity. You're just copying each other. Is this positive or negative? So, from an American point of view, not very positive. You need to take their perspective, not your perspective. Okay? So it's not so positive. Okay. Now, this one. Koreans look at the whole thing. Something is sticking out. Okay. So they call this deviance. Okay. Like your parents, when you're growing up, your parents tell you, do not be the one that sticks out, that's so difficult, that's always disagreeing. Right? Have you heard this? The teacher, play nice, do not be very disagreeable. Right? Otherwise, you'll be kicked out of your deviance. Positive or negative? Negative. Now, Americans, right? Analytical, one at a time. Square. Okay, this is not square. This is so unique. Okay, we found one that shows uniqueness. Okay, again, it's like how their parents teach the children, right? Find your strength, be different, be unique, right? You have your unique superpower, and you can be very different from everyone else. Okay. Now, when they're saying this, is it positive or negative? Positive, right? So when Koreans look at this is harmony. Harmony is better. Right? Americans look at this is boring, conformity. This is uniqueness, of course, this is better. So they explain it this way, right? It's the culture. So culture is the same thing. Objectively, same squares and triangles. But from different cultural lens, they mean very different things. And the meaning has positives and negatives. Right? So this is where meaning affects, right? Meaning affects your follow. Okay. So you may say, well, it's very hard to change culture. Yes, the national culture, very hard, right? But we're not talking just national culture. We're also talking about company culture. We're also talking about a group culture. That is easier to shape. Yeah. So, so it's really about the meaning of how you shape the company culture or the group culture. The meaning. And if you look at how Trump is framing what he's doing, right? A lot of times you hear the word freedom, right? Liberty. These are very positive things, right? And then you use something like if it's something that he's not happy about, oh, it's socialist. Now in China, socialist can be positive. In America, socialist is very negative, right? So the meaning of a word, right? In Scandinavia, Nordic countries, socialist is a very positive thing. But in the US, it's very negative. And so the culturally prescribed meaning can influence how people think. And that's why they don't have national health care. They have terrible health care in the US. Because way back in the 1930s, 1940s, there was a campaign that said having a national healthcare is compulsory. So you're compulsory. It is compulsory to join the healthcare system. You pay tax. That is, they sell it as socialism, communism. Okay, and so people voted against it, even though rationally it actually makes sense for them to have a national flag. But because of the meaning, they switch. Okay. So the meaning can influence how people vote, how people choose. Word play. What word do you use? Okay. So we talk about condition, we talk about meaning. Here's one thing about process. Okay. Early follower. Remember, there's a principle I want to share with you called banana principle. Okay, banana principle. Imagine in an office, okay, the office manager wants people to eat healthy. So the office manager put out a fruit bowl. Inside the fruit bowl, there are oranges and then there are banana. Which fruit do you think is going to go away first? Yeah, finish. Banana, why? It's easier to pick. Okay. If you want people to take it, make it easy. Orange is messy. It's very difficult to peel. Okay, and it gets into your fingernail and stuff and juice everywhere. Banana is neat. Okay. Banana principle. If you want people to do it, make it easy. Make it easy. So in a following situation, how do you make it easy? Make a role model, create a role model. Nurture your early follower. So everybody heard of this guy's name called Barack Obama. Yeah? He was the American president in 2008, when you were still very young, if you existed. 2008, Obama was nobody. Nobody heard of him. Okay, not very recognizable. He was running for president. Now, at the same time, there was another person called Hillary Clinton, also running for president. She, very well known, right? Her husband was the previous, president before. So everybody knows her. Obama, no one knew. Okay. So everybody thought Clinton was going to win. But it didn't happen. And the big difference between Clinton and Obama was Obama nurtured early followers. People would go knock on doors, right? So they believe his vision. And then he say, okay, if you believe me, go and knock on doors. And here's how you do it. I show you how. Okay, so make it easy for people to understand what they're supposed to do. Okay, so early followers, make it easy for people to follow. So I'm gonna show you one video and to illustrate this, and then you see what it means to make it easy.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
So even for something like totally meaningless, it's just shirtless dancing on the grass, right? You see that the biggest story of leadership, the most influential people might be the first followers. So if you get it right with the first few people who follow you, nurture them, make sure other people know how to follow, right? Reward them, recognize them, then you have a movement, you have other people following because you make it easy to follow. So you create that process. If the first shirtless guy doesn't even recognize the first follower, right, or laugh at the first follower, then nobody else is going to follow. Okay, so the first few people are actually very, very important. Can you make them a good example, easy example for others to follow? If you can, then people will follow. Okay, so make it easy so that people follow. All right. So what we are just talking about are condition, meaning, and process, right? Publicity, the sense of uncertainty, the sense of whether you are in the majority or minority. These are condition of the context, right? So you can sort of frame it. You can create sense. Remember, this is perception. How public is this? How uncertain is this? What majority, what minority is this? You can actually make it up. Okay, I'm not asking you to lie to people, right? But you can see that you can shape it. Okay, so this is condition. What about meaning, right? If you follow a certain fashion, if you wear a mask, if you carry a golden iPhone, if you are wearing a certain watch, what does that mean? Right? It is meaning. It carries meaning. If you follow the crowd, right? Is it harmony or is it conformity? That carries meaning. Okay? And again, leaders can shape the meaning. What about early followers, right? So that is a process. You're basically teaching people how, right? It's about how. Okay? How. And so you get people, make it easy for people to copy. Okay? So that is a process. Okay? So there is the what, there is the why, and then there is the how. Okay? So for the rest of the semester, we'll come back over and over again, talking about the condition, the meaning, the process. But you get the first taste, right? So it's human nature to follow. But great leaders can make use of the condition, the meaning, and the process to make the human nature even more strong, one way or another. So that is called moderation. Now, all that we just mentioned, right? The dancing guy, very abstract. So do people actually make use of this? So I'll give you some examples here. So this is MRT. So in Singapore, they call it MRT here. It's same as MTR here. The train. So whenever now it's a little bit better, but in the old days, right, the train door open, people rush in, even though there are people trying to get out, they could not get out. And that is very inefficient for the system. So MRT in Singapore, they decided, this is Singapore. So they decided to try to get people, nudge people to not jump into the train so quickly. Wait for people to get out. So instead of teaching, pointing fingers, don't jump into, right? Wait for people to get out before you get in. Because why? Because we don't like to be, human nature, we don't like to be told what to do. Well, first reaction is why? Why are you telling me to do this? Okay. Instead of telling is not very effective. Instead of telling, they put up this sign. It says 98% of the people felt that it is faster for everyone when they queue up and give way to unlighting. So do you feel the same way too? Now, what are they trying to play at? 98%. Which trick was it? Majority, right? Majority. 98% is big. Okay. So if you're jumping in now, you're the 2%. And what did we learn? Minority slowness. If you're the 2%, you're a very small minority, you're gonna look around, you're gonna think. By the time you finish thinking, those people are already out. Okay. So it's tricking you to do things a certain way without telling you. This is doing without doing. You see that? It's doing without doing. I'm not telling you what to do. It's your decision. You make the decision to slow down, wait, right? And when it is, you feel that it is your decision, you're happier. And not being told to do this and that, you're happier. You feel like you make your own decision. You're independent. You feel good about yourself doing it. And so you will do it in the future. You see what they're trying to do there? Yeah. Now you think that, well, Singapore, harmony, they easy to, they make it easy for people to follow. Okay. They follow anyways. So does it happen elsewhere, right? Number 10, so this is UK. UK, they actually have a behavioral insights group. So this group of people, real people, these are not actors, these are real people. They help the UK government train people to do what they are supposed to do, including paying tax on time, including saving energy, don't use so much electricity, including slowing down while you are driving. They put out a lot of tricks. So I'll show you some of these tricks. Okay, so the bigger photo, you see like a 23 and then there is a smiley face, right? Now, if you're too fast, guess what? There's a unhappy face on the screen. Now, they found that just the happy face and unhappy face will get people to slow down. So I'm not telling you, or I'm not sending police to catch you. I don't need to waste money to put the police to catch you. I just put a sign there, give you a number, give you a smiley face, you're doing it right, or you're doing it wrong, people will follow. Cheap, effective. Yeah. The blue square there, that is the social distancing, COVID, right? 2 meters. People automatically stand on the blue square, right? And if you don't put the blue square there, they're not going to follow. But putting the blue square there, they are going to follow. It's cheap just to stick something on the floor, right? You don't have to ask someone to go out there to police people. Yeah. The escalator is a campaign to get people to exercise more so that you're fit, the population is more fit. Okay, so you just put a stadium, like stick something on the floor, and people were like, oh, okay, this is like a stadium exercise, right? So just by doing that, fewer people take the escalator. You don't have to tell people, take the stairs. You'll be healthier that way. You just put the sticker on the floor, right? Doing without doing. And then the middle one, very tiny words, but you see highlighted the great majority of people in your local area pay their taxes on time. Most people with a tax like yours have paid it by now. So again, playing at the majority-minority gap, right? If everybody, a lot of people are paying tax already, and there are people like you are the small minority. You need to do something to get out of the very uncomfortable situation. Follow the crowd. Okay. And then the last one, this is from the US. So this is about children missing classes. Okay. So basically sending a letter to the parent, Jane or John has missed 13 days or 11% of school this year, more than the typical student at our school or in the district of the same grade. Okay, so you're doing worse than others, right? And usually by showing this number is more effective than telling parents, hey, get your kids to school. Just by showing the number, they say, oh, we are looking bad here. We need to catch up. They do it voluntarily. Okay. So it's a lot more effective than telling. This is leading without doing too much. Okay. Most leaders, they make the mistake of trying too hard, right? Going out there to tell people do this, do that. In the end, they are not very effective. The most effective way is to understand what makes people follow. Okay. Why are people following? And then play around with it. Okay. Oh, so people follow because they don't feel comfortable to stand out. Let's play around with that and make people feel like if they are not following, they will stand out and it's going to be shameful. See if they follow. Right? So it's again about playing with the meaning, the process, and the condition to make it even more salient that you're standing out, or everyone like you is doing certain things. Why are you not doing it? You're out of fashion, or just say it's so easy to follow. Come on, are you stupid? Right, follow. Right, so there are many ways to get people to follow without telling them, and it's about understanding human nature. So why do people follow, right? The question of the day, why do people follow? Because it's human nature. But great leadership shapes the perceived reality of followership by playing around with the condition, meaning, and process. Okay. So we know like sheep, right? They follow each other. But having the dog there, right, the shepherd dog, that is building that process so that you can push the following one way or another. Okay. So that's where leadership is. Okay. So if we understand why people follow and then we understand what switch to turn on and off, we are already halfway there. Okay. Any question? No. Not next time. We'll switch a little bit. Okay, so meaning comes from somewhere, right? Culture or the situation of the country and so on. So we'll look at globalization next time. After all, we are talking about global leadership, right? So globalization, 20 years ago, very positive word. Yeah. Today, you go to US, it's a dirty word. It's negative. Okay. You go to Argentina, it's a negative. You go to parts of UK, it's a negative word. You go to parts of Europe, it's a negative word. What is going on? Why it turns from something so positive into something so negative? Right? Why are we not talking about globalization anymore? Right? Why does it carry this negative thing? So to prepare for that, there's a clip, there's a video clip, short clip, around 15, 20 minutes. Take a look at that video, all right? And I want you to focus on those two questions. So it's an interview of a sociology, because that's the thing that everyone is looking at now, right? Why are they doing it? What are they going to do next, right? So why are Trump supporters endorsing a nationalist agenda?